Chapter 28, Ascend. Nail was growing uneasy. The androids could arrive at any time, without warning, but he had to stay at Kame House and wait for them, as this would be the best chance he'd get to confront them. Would his new power be enough? He didn't know. Cell was also preying on his mind. The creature was on the move, he could sense that. More towns were being drained of life in a matter of hours. But not only might he miss the androids, by the time Nail would be able to get to the site of Cell's next attack, it would be gone again, masking its energy. What was its true purpose? To absorb everyone? He thought back to the moment he'd been pierced by that terrible stinger. The sensation of your very life force being ripped out of your body. He could only imagine how much more terrifying it would be to die that way. Cell would have to be stopped. But first, the androids. Break, finished with her training routine for the moment, went over to Goku and Raditz. They'd been sitting opposite each other, in deep meditation on a hilltop, for nearly 3 days now. Despite the wind and the nearly Arctic temperatures around Tien and Kaioshin's mountain home, the two saiyans didn't seem to be affected at all, presumably they were slowly burning small amounts of ki to keep themselves warm. Hey, She didn't really want to disturb them, but she had to know. How's it going? Roused from their semi-conscious state, her father and uncle looked up. There is a higher level, Raditz told her. I can feel it, but it's so distant. Right. Goku turned to face his niece from the future. We're not prepared, physically or mentally, to take on this kind of challenge. Raditz stood up, stretching and yawning. What we need is time, but we just don't have that. A couple of weeks, maybe. We can't hide indefinitely. If the androids are anything like the ones in your time, they'll get bored and start random attacks on human settlements soon. They will, Break agreed. It's in their nature. Dr. Gero created them to be weapons, and that's exactly what they'll be. Goku lapsed into silent thought, then something seemed to come to mind and he sprang to his feet. Time. That's it. It's like you said, Raditz, we need more time. Well, what about it? Raditz asked irritably. The hyperbolic time chamber. The what now? Goku brightened up. It's a special room in Kami's lookout, where you can train for a whole year in just a day. That's possible. Break wondered. Yeah. Goku grinned. I never considered it before, we've always had plenty of time to prepare, and you can only use it for 2 days in your life, but it could come in really handy right now. Let's not waste any time, Raditz decided. Goku, Break, grab on. He focused his mind, searching for Kami's servant Jin's energy signature at Kami's lookout, instant transmission taking them straight to him. And you're sure you haven't seen any signs of the heart virus? Break was asking as they approached the door to the chamber, through the otherworldly architecture of Kami's lookout. Nope, Goku answered. I've felt just fine. Weird, I guess all this time traveling really altered history. Keep the medicine around, though, who knows when it could strike. Right. Well, the chamber only has enough food for 2 people to go the full year, so who's going to go in first? Let Break go with me, Raditz suggested. I know she's got a lot of potential. With a full year, there's no doubt we can unlock this higher level. Break smiled. Thanks, Dad. I'll try not to disappoint you. Don't worry. You'll do fine. Goku nodded. Sure, that sounds good. Go ahead, you two, and good luck. Raditz slowly opened the door to the hyperbolic time chamber, and Break followed him in, waving goodbye to Goku. Earth's hero, after wandering aimlessly for a couple of minutes, realized the one thing he hadn't got enough of recently, sleep. It was almost an hour before a noise awoke Goku from his nap. 2 quiet feet touching down on the lookout. Curious, Goku stood up and walked out onto the lookout's exterior. A small figure in orange was striding towards him. Gohan. His son nodded. I'm here to train with you, Dad. Ah. Goku hesitated. You want to fight with us, don't you? Chi-Chi would kill me. I'm not a baby anymore. Gohan protested. I'm turning 10 in a few days, you know. That's still pretty young. I was 12 when I started having adventures, I'm just worried you'll get hurt, son. Gohan's temper snapped. Stop protecting me. Goku flinched back. It's always like this, the half-saiyan child growled. You told me to stay back when the saiyans attacked, and only fight if I had to, everyone said I shouldn't go to Namek, you left me and ran off to fight Frieza, you left me with Mom when the androids came, I've had enough. You're not gonna leave me behind again. His lip was quivering, and he sniffed to hold back the tears. Goku stepped forwards, picking up his son and holding him close. Hey. I'm sorry, Gohan, I just didn't want you getting hurt. Dad. Gohan looked up at his father hopefully. Will you take me in the time training place with you? Please. After that outburst, Goku didn't want to say no, but he'd hoped he'd get to train on his own or with Raditz. Please, Dad. I want to become a Super Saiyan like you. I have to be able to protect my friends. Goku smiled. Gohan certainly had potential, and his heart was in the right place. Maybe it wouldn't be such a bad idea after all. You've grown up far too fast, son, sure. As soon as Raditz and Break are done, we'll train together. Okay. Gohan beamed. All right. Whoa. Break stared around her. The hyperbolic time chamber consisted of a small building acting as living quarters, surrounded by an endless expanse of white, empty nothingness. This place feels weird. Like a waking dream. I know what you mean. Raditz walked out into the emptiness. And out here, the air is thick, the temperature's risen a bit. Break tried to follow him outside and promptly fell over. Oh, and the gravity is 10 times Earth's, Raditz added by way of an explanation. Break grunted, standing up shakily and throwing off her jacket as she felt the effects of the heat. Thanks for not mentioning that a few seconds ago. Oh, quit your whining. Let's begin. Begin? Break asked. What are we going to start with? She was floored by a lightning-fast punch to the face. Your reflexes could use some improvement, Raditz commented, rubbing his aching knuckles. Hard skull, though. Early the next day. The androids had ditched the car upon reaching the ocean, and were flying at a leisurely pace towards where their database said Kame House would be. I still haven't gotten a change of clothes, 18 muttered. Well, it's not my fault you've got a short temper, 17 told her, smirking as he remembered the incident. You can hardly take the clothes if you blow up the whole building, right? Don't blame it on me, she snapped. That guy at the counter deserved it. Deserved being spread over a half-mile blast radius? I doubt it. 17 grinned. Still, it was pretty funny. 16 interrupted them, pointing to an object appearing on the horizon. We are nearing Kame House. Exercise caution, it is possible that they are prepared for our arrival. Sure, 17 said, waving 16's concerns off. It doesn't matter. They're no match for us. But the powers I sensed shortly after our battle. I told you, it's just a sensor malfunction. Lighten up, it's impossible that anyone on this planet has the strength to challenge us. Well, we're here. 16 glanced around. I only detect one energy signature inside. It is being suppressed, and I cannot determine its full magnitude. It could be any of them. I guess they were expecting us. 18 shrugged. Well, we can beat on this one until they tell us where the others are hiding. She trailed off as the door opened. Nail walked out, taking in the scene. I can't sense your power, but you make a lot of noise, he said. He was carrying a glass of water, from which he periodically sipped through a straw. Can I help you? 17 nodded. You could say that. Tell us where Goku is. And if I don't? I'll leave it to your imagination. Nail appeared to genuinely consider this. How about this? I'm not going to tell you anything. You, on the other hand, can leave right now, before I send you to that great big junkyard in the sky. Why, you? 17 clenched his fists. You think you can threaten us? Calm down, 17. 18 urged, putting a steadying hand on her brother's shoulder. Getting mad won't help us at all. 17 exhaled slowly. Right. You're right. Sorry. He looked over at 16. Hey, 16. He's being uncooperative. You want to loosen his tongue some? No. 16 replied instantly, giving an automated, predetermined response. No. I am programmed only to fight Goku. If this fighter is not actively obstructing me, I will not attack him. Whatever you say, 17 replied. You're so dull, 16. You should learn to have some fun once in a while. 16 declined to answer. Fine. 17 looked up. Hey, Namek guy. Nail, having grown bored of the androids bickering and drifted into a daydream, looked up just in time to notice 17's fist swinging for him. Reacting without thinking, he swung his arm up and caught the android's hand mid-swing. The glass of water formerly held in Nail's hand fell to the ground, shattering and spilling its contents on the sand. You know, he said, I wasn't finished with that. Nail twisted, throwing 17 over his shoulder and into the ocean. Seconds later, the android burst back up to the surface, seething with rage. That's it. I don't care anymore, you're dead. Nail gave a half-smile, and with a noise like distant thunder, he powered up to maximum, whipping up a small sandstorm around himself with his ki. This is one of the powers I sensed battling earlier. 16 called out urgently. 17. Do not attempt to fight him. His power exceeds yours. What did you say? 17 shouted. I told you, that's impossible. He rushed at Nail, who easily sidestepped his blow and kicked him away, knocking the android back at supersonic speeds, leaving a jet stream of water behind him. Nail took off after his foe, 16 and 18 just behind. I'll try and keep this away from Kame House. Nail decided. It's already been destroyed once, after all. He swooped down underwater, grabbed 17 by the back of his shirt and flung him over onto a small, grassy island nearby. 17 gasped, pushing off the ground and jumping to his feet. This can't be happening. He growled. I'm the strongest in the universe. Nail laughed. Ha ha ha. Is that so? Well, maybe the second strongest now. I'll. 17 shook with anger. I'll kill you. Is that so? Nail asked, jumping over and ducking under all of 17's strikes as the dark-haired cyborg charged back into the fray. You don't seem to be getting very far with that. You'll tire out eventually. 17 snarled. I won't. I'll wear you down and, he was cut off by a chop to the throat that sent him reeling, choking as pain caused his neck muscles to spasm. You're far too overconfident. Nail raised an eyebrow. Hey, tell me, have you ever fought anyone who could actually challenge you before? I'm guessing not, the way you're reacting. I'm coming, 17, the female android yelled, charging Nail from behind just as 17 recovered and kicked at him in front. Nail smacked 17's leg away with his right elbow, knocking 18's arm aside with his left forearm. Moving quickly, he launched a punch to each side, hitting them both in the stomach. They landed next to each other on the island, glaring up at Nail. That was the same strike you used on Gohan and me a few days ago, 17, by the way. If I'm honest, it's a bit predictable. Easy to guard against, unless you're entirely outclassed, of course. Shut up. 18 shouted. We're going to, Nail waved his hand, and the island the androids were standing on exploded. They jumped up and away in opposite directions, hovering opposite from Nail. How did this happen? 17 mumbled in disbelief. I took him down in one hit 3 days ago. Hey. He addressed Nail directly. Were you hiding your power before? Nail shook his head. I've improved. That quickly? You're lying. He thrust his hands forwards, a volley of flickering energy bullets flying at Nail. A second stream of attacks appeared as 18 followed his example. You think so? Nail crossed his arms, folding his body up as the blasts approached. Then explain, this. He unfolded like a spring released, spreading his arms and legs and flinging out a rolling wall of ki in all directions. Way. The energy attacks were bounced back like raindrops on a windshield, flying off and dissipating in the air, or detonating in the sea. 18 gritted her teeth. What's it take, huh? More than you've got. Nail replied, flexing his muscles. Feel free to give up any time you like. I won't kill you. Go to hell, she shouted back. I guess you don't know us very well, our freedom means more to us than anything. We're not giving ourselves up to anybody. Yet you're following Dr. Gero's plans. We don't have a choice in that. 17 told him. It's in our programming. I'm telling you, you can't keep this up forever. We'll win in the end. Nail sighed. We'll see. 17 raised his hands to either side of his head, charging up a yellow ball of energy in each. He threw them at Nail, who stood stoically staring into space as they flew at him. 18 flew around behind Nail, hoping to take advantage of the momentary distraction defending himself would give. But Nail wouldn't move, he hovered, unmoving, as the attack drew nearer. 18, look out. 16 warned as his sensors alerted him to the danger, but it was too late. She flew straight through Nail's vanishing afterimage, crashing headfirst into 17's attacks. When the smoke cleared, 18 was hovering there, arms raised to protect her face, sleeves entirely burned away, scratches running up and down her forearms. Ow! Nail stood a few meters away, facing away from the androids, staring off into space. Okay, that does it. 17 charged back up at Nail, his fist swinging through empty air. Wah, he'd been able to follow Nail's movements so far, even if he hadn't quite been fast enough to react to them. But this time, he'd seen nothing. Nail had been there, and then he was gone. Looking for me? Nail asked, inches away, practically breathing down 17's neck. He held up a small red object. He'd stolen 17's scarf from around the android's shoulders without him even noticing. Nail waved it mockingly. Oh, and your fashion sense is atrocious, if Bulma's frequent lectures are anything to go by. Yah! 17 started wildly lashing out at Nail, none of his blows connecting. 18. A little help here. Right. 18 flew up to join the attack. He can't dodge us both at once. She began to furiously rain blows at Nail. No, I think I can, the Namekian warrior decided, and proceeded to do just that. Stand still. 17 snarled. Okay, but you asked for it. Nail stopped dodging, grabbing 18 by one arm and throwing her down into the sea. 17 kicked at his head, but he dodged again with the same ease, landing a solid punch to 17's gut, kicking him into the air, appearing above him and elbowing him back down into the ocean. The android duo slowly rose out of the water, gasping for breath. Nail floated sternly above them. Have you figured it out yet? You're fighting a losing battle. 16. You want to lend a hand, huh? 17 shouted up to their unmoving comrade. 16 shook his head. I told you, I am programmed only to fight Goku. And this warrior will not kill you. He has said as much, and I predict an overwhelming probability that he is telling the truth. My advice is to surrender until an opportunity to locate Goku presents itself. Not happening. 17 growled, grinding his teeth. Well, what choice do we have? 18 asked. I'm open to suggestions, but let's not just keep attacking blindly. He's barely broken a sweat. You should listen to her, Nail suggested. You're not getting anywhere. Huh? He tensed up, sensing an unnatural, evil key. Cell. What's he doing here? He turned, to see the bug-like bio-android already approaching. 16 was also staring in that direction, watching Cell's arrival with detached, almost scientific interest. Finally noticing the new arrival, 17 and 18 looked behind them seeing Cell flying towards them. And who's this? 17 wondered. I don't know, and frankly I don't care. 18 looked up at 16. He's not anything to worry about, is he? 16 looked visibly worried. This is the other power I sensed before. He has grown stronger. I know. Nail clenched his fists. He's drained energy from thousands of people, fighting him won't be so easy this time. Cell came to a halt to the group's right. Well, isn't this a nice little gathering? Who the hell are you? 17 demanded. Shut up. Nail snapped, then turned to the new foe. What do you want here, Cell? I never told you my ultimate goal, did I? Cell asked. Dr. Gero made me with a very specific aim in mind, to achieve my perfect form. Well, I'd say you're far from perfect. Nail shrugged. No offense, but the bug wings are kind of redundant, given that you can fly with your ki, and I can't help noticing, your mouth looks exactly like your. Enough. Cell snarled. To attain my perfect form, I must absorb androids 17 and 18 into my being. Kindly remove yourself from my path, destroying you will be a waste of time. A bit bold, don't you think? Nail asked. Telling me your plan. It doesn't matter, Cell hissed. There's nothing you can do stop it. It vanished, reappearing in front of Nail, who blocked its first punch. They pushed against each other, struggling to break the lock and gain the upper hand. Incredible. 16 muttered. Their power levels are both equal to mine. Nail ducked to the left as Cell swung past him, and they spun around to face each other. You've grown strong, Cell, Nail noted. But it won't make a difference. I can't let you achieve this perfect form. I imagine it would make you much more powerful, and I'm not one of those people who'll just sit around while you power up just for the challenge, so trust me, you're not going any further. You underestimate me. Cell growled. Hey. 17 called up to the battling pair. Don't we get a say in this? No. Nail and Cell shouted simultaneously, before launching into a high-speed exchange of blows. But Nail decided as he dodged and blocked with expert precision, you might want to get out of here. If he does beat me somehow, you'll be next, and trust me, you're no match for this guy. Run away. Not a chance, 17 protested. It might be a good idea. 18 said, indicating the battle. You know they're above our level. Think about it. 17 tapped his head. Those two are about equal, right? So whoever wins is going to be tired, their power will drop massively. If we work together, we can take them out, no problem. And then the only two real threats to us will be gone. You want me to run away from that chance? I guess not. 18 looked hesitant. I just hope you're right. Trust me. Nail finally landed a blow, but Cell's natural chitin armor plating absorbed it, and the creature seized him by the throat, sinking its needle-sharp tail into his arm. There was a scraping, sucking sound as Nail's energy was pumped out of him. But he'd felt it before, and he was prepared for the pain. Twisting, he prepared himself for far greater agony and ripped his own arm off at the shoulder. Purple blood sprayed in a wide arc, and he had to bite his lip to stop himself screaming. With a further grunt, he forced energy into his shoulder, regenerating the severed limb. Cell hissed again, throwing away the empty husk of Nail's former arm. Quite impressive, Nail. But I drained a lot of your power, and that little stunt just cost you even more. Now, I have the upper hand. Haha, so sure. Nail grinned. Ever since you stabbed me the first time we fought, I've been working on a trick that'll come in handy if I ever find myself with a substantial amount of my energy inside my opponent's body. Wah, Cell never got to finish his sentence. Nail detonated his stolen key at the moment it entered Cell's main body, completely obliterating its midsection. Cell's legs and tail fell away, into the ocean, as its upper body hung in the air, twitching and growling in pain. Cunning. With surprisingly little effort, Cell regenerated itself, within seconds becoming whole again. But ultimately futile. I wouldn't say that, Nail said. As you said, regenerating takes a lot of energy. And I should think that half of your body is more draining than one arm. Humph. Cell braced itself. Well, victory is determined by intelligence just as much as power. And I have the combined knowledge and brainpower of the entire Brief family, every Namekian ever to visit the Earth, and the greatest fighting tacticians among the planet's defenders. He dashed at Nail, who raised his arms in preparation to block. Cell made a familiar movement, and recognizing the solar flare technique, Nail flinched, closing his eyes. I won't fall for the same trick twice. No, you'll fall for a whole new one this time. It was merely a feint, and Cell placed both hands on Nail's stomach in the moment the Namek warrior had his eyes closed, charging crackling purple energy around his fingers. Gallic gun. Nail just had time to think, Vegeta's technique, before the blast hurled him away in a blaze of light, boiling the water around him as he landed. Several seconds passed, and nothing surfaced. Cell took a second to enjoy his victory, before focusing on the androids. Well, now. That went rather well. Who's going to help me achieve perfection first, Break sat down, panting, her training was really taking everything she had. She'd found a limit, unfortunately, an upper plateau, which she hadn't been able to push her power past. She knew the other Super Saiyans had found the same thing when preparing themselves for the android's attack. Raditz had, after cleaning up her form and technique, begun to meditate, telling her to go and train on her own while he searched for the next level, and to come back when she'd reached the upper limit of Super Saiyan. Now she had, and she wearily trudged over to him. The temperature in the hyperbolic time chamber fluctuated more, the further away from the living quarters you went. Right now it was biting cold. At least the gravity hadn't taken long to get used to. She approached her father, who was standing up straight with his eyes closed. I've reached it, she said. The limit. I can't push my power any higher. She took a deep breath. Have you found the next level yet? Raditz was silent for several seconds, and then nodded slowly. Opening his eyes, he powered up to Super Saiyan. Then, maintaining perfect focus, and entirely without speaking, he pulled on another, greater reserve of power. Golden light flooded the surrounding area, and break shielded her eyes, peering over her raised hands when it cleared at her transformed father. Incredible. She breathed.